Welcome everyone to this week's SUSE QE Tools Workshop. Today the topic will be openqa-review. What I will do, I will show you how reports that openqa-review generates look like, and then I can demonstrate you the tool itself. And then I would also like to introduce you to how we periodically generate reports in a GitLab CI pipeline. And after that, I'm happy to discuss with you how that can be used for you, how we can extend what we have as periodic CI jobs to generate reports for the domains that you might be interested in, as well as talk about similar approaches or alternative approaches. For example, not using that tool, but either using that as an just the idea and then retransfer that into using the openqa API in different tools, or potential future extensions to the openqa tool. The motivation why I wanted to present openqa-review now is because there was a wish or a request to be able to have a single place for each QA team so that they can select their area of interest and have a concise report for that, not needing to click over multiple build results in the openqa web UI manually. All right. So what I will do is from my second account, I will share my screen. So switch off the camera here. You should see the wiki page, the QA wiki. Do you see that?
Yep, looks good here.
Good. So this is the wiki page that you should already know from these workshop sessions, because this is where we have the complete team description of our team. This is where we have the workshop schedule and the proposed topics and the previously discussed topics. So I can also show you that as a reminder. Here, workshop topics. There you see all the topics that we had already in the past, and most of them, except for one where we missed that, we have a video recording where you can follow up with these. So today we will have that topic. Back to the top. There is one section which is called Test Results Overview. And this already shows examples of what openqa-review can do. So these are SUSE internal results. And the first thing which I would like to show you is this complete report, which is, because it's complete, of course, very, very lengthy, but the option always exists to strip them down further and to only select a part of that with customized calls to openqa-review. So if we open that, then you can already see in the favicon that it looks a bit like openqa, but it has this blue R overlaid. And then you see a report page like that. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So this report is composed of 3 sections. The complete report, then references of openqa jobs that are linked to already closed bugs, and then reference of a list of openqa jobs that are linked to unassigned bugs. And I will show you examples for these. So, but first, here how the complete report looks. So there's a header for each job group that is included. Here by this is showing here container latest, And what we see is that it links the openqa jobs that are soft failed or failed. It doesn't include any past jobs, so it's only showing you the one that are either to be reviewed or that are already reviewed and have a certain label. For example, there's one job which is soft failing, which is container SLE image on SLE host. That's linked to this bug. And openqa-review also parses the status from that bug, so from Bugzilla, and it's saying that this is a bug which is resolved fix, the priority and the severity, and that it has an assignee. Linked here under existing product bugs, because this was like that in before, comparing two builds, for example, the latest build that we have right now and the previous one. Then let's see if we find other examples. So here, for example, we have one section which is called new product bugs. Why does it say new now? Well, because in a previous build, that same job did not appear as failing, or in that case, as soft failing. But still, we do have a reference, so there's no review work to be done. So here we have similar sections, and here we have one case where we mention to do. Why does it say to do review? Well, because that job in openqa does not yet have any label. So this is why openqa-review, same as openqa, says that this job needs to be reviewed. It also says that's an existing issue. So likely in before there was already this the same job sorry, not the same job, another job in the same scenario that already failed in this scenario. And we see mostly Bugzilla tickets. That's very good, but this progress tickets would work the same. Then we have some job groups which do not have any recent builds. That's also happening. Here you see cases where we have only a green status. It doesn't mean that there are no jobs. It just means that no job failed. So this is why it says status green, nothing to be done. Let me just look up cases. Yeah, so here we also have this. Yeah, here we have an example where we have existing product bugs, so where we reference bugs. And the second one is choose LTP syscalls. This is where we reference a progress ticket. And that progress ticket then is seen as an, how we call it here, an openqa issue. So this is the complete report. As you can see on the scroll bar, it will go on for a bit longer. I hear an echo from. So we have this direct links to closed bugs and unassigned bugs. It's actually the same report repeated, but only parts of it are filtered. So for example, here we see closed bugs. You can see the report as a to-do list. Whenever there's an entry showing up, that means there's something that is to be done. So in that case, we see that there are soft failing openqa jobs which reference a bug, but the bug is resolved fixed. So that means that something is off, because the bug was stated to be fixed, but we don't see that the job is green, and we still see that bug referenced. So that's problematic, okay? This is why it shows up here in closed bugs. You can see that in the other cases it's the same for the different architectures. An example for unassigned bugs would be here. So here we see that there is a bug, and this bug does not yet have an assignee. So that means we show that there's a problem in our tests, but nobody is working on the bug. And there's one last piece of information that is included, which is skipped tests. Why is that mentioned? Well, if you want to know if you can release a build or can release a product, you likely want to know not only the failing tests, but what any failing tests are blocking. Okay. Yeah, there's a hand raised, Jose. Go on.
Yep. And I was just by curiosity, so I looking at this containers group. So there, you said that there is a green test which is still referenced as a bug, right?
A soft
So
failed test.
okay, soft fail. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, then that should be fine. Okay.
Yeah. Soft failed means that, with extended policies that we have in OS Audience Distri OpenSUSE, that we need that bug reference. The bug reference is there. That's fine. Yeah, but we see that the bug is linked to resolve fix. And actually, I also receive a lot of comments in bugs when people ask me like, hey, why is the job still soft failing? The bug is supposed to be fixed. Okay, so that shows that people react to the same kind of mismatch that openqa-review already shows.
Okay.
Right. So this about the complete report. There are some other reports. So for example, here was what was used by SUSE QE SLE in the past. This is why we have short links for these, but in general, any other selection could be done. So I'm thinking of maintenance incidents as an overview, or the maintenance aggregate tests, which one can also filter with openqa-review. Let me just shortly show you that example. So yeah, it's similar, very similar report. The only thing different is that it immediately starts with SLE 15 because it only looks for SLE 15, in that case, in the parent job group name. So this is why it's a subset of the previous report. Are there any questions or comments regarding the content of the reports?
Hi, Oliver.
Yeah.
This is Alice. Yeah, regarding the overall status, once there are existing soft fails, which mentions bugs that are not fixed, is it more reasonable to have the overall status as soft fail rather than green?
You mean it says green here, even though it says soft failed? Yeah, the reason why it says green here is because these are existing product bugs. So openqa-review assumes that, well, the previous build already had that problem, and we receive a new build that still has the same problem, so we don't want to alert about that. Of course, these issues are still present, but it's not a regression from the last build, because not more are failing. Does that make sense?
Okay. I see. It's reasonable from this regard. Uh, it's a little bit um, from people's general uh, understanding for this. Maybe it's better to have a note somewhere about this. I mean, the status is for diff quality
Yes,
rather than.
very good that you mentioned that, and we actually have an explanation exactly for that, and I have skipped that explanation in explaining here, but it's actually still there. So this is explaining how we come to the conclusion of green, red, or amber. So very good that you brought that up. Right now, that the Python script that generates the report, which is called openqa-review, has this, let's say, rather simple algorithm. Of course, that could be adjusted if we can encode the expectation that we have into a formula. Okay, so if we can, given on the numbers and the reports that we see, decide should we call that green or red, then we could do that. But that differs a lot per domain. Think about maintenance tests versus product validation tests in an early beta phase. So maybe in an early beta phase, you want to accept much more temporary problems than in a released product. Sophia, go on. Yeah, I can see that you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I wanted to ask if it would be possible in the future to have the bugs marked as resolved after the fix is included in the build, because currently a bug is resolved as marked as resolved when the developer sets it as resolved, but so it's very common that the fix is not yet there in the build.
Correct. Yes. So as you can see in examples like here, there the bug is remarked as resolved fix, but the test still references the bug. So here I would say the problem is either the bug fix is actually not effective, or the bug fix has not yet reached the product, or maybe the test needs to be adapted. Maybe the test now reports a false report of the bug, which actually should be in resolved fix. But also there is another thing, which is that there is a status of verified fixed. So being strict about the process, how they are documented on the SUSE wiki as well as on Bugzilla, resolved cannot be the final stage, but only verified. Okay, so see it like that a developer commonly creates a submission and therefore sets the status to resolved fixed, as in transporting the meaning of the bug fix is available, but maybe the submission is not yet accepted, or maybe there's even multiple submissions that need to be accepted into multiple products. And for each product, we would need to wait until we have the corresponding status. However, openqa-review has an interface to Bugzilla, which is already using. So let's say I can't make promises, but in theory, technically it's possible to interface with Bugzilla to also feedback that information. So for example, the verification could be done automatically if openqa-review, or let's say openqa or any tool around that, would be able to say like, oh, a job that previously failed is now green and there was a bug linked, then we can say automatically that the bug fix is effective because it was verified. Did I understand you correctly?
I think you answered in another part of my question, but currently, in order to see if the fix is included in the build, we have to do that manually, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so OpenQA couldn't possibly have the function to check by itself. Like if we have a label in the bug that says it's included in this fix is included in the particular build, OpenQA cannot check that by itself.
I think it's risky to let openqa decide that without looking into the actual change in the product. So in our case, for example, let's say we should check the RPM package version to see if that is really corresponding to the fix, or take a look into the changelog of the RPM package to decide yes, the intended bug fix is included, and then we can take a look at the openqa test result, and then maybe we can see that the job that was previously failed or soft failed with the bug reference is now green. So only then we make the decision that the job turned green because the intended bug fix is now included and verified. Make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
But if you're interested, on my wiki page on wiki.suse.net, I have a longer procedure written down how I think this can be done, and this is actually also so for example here openqa sleeve workflow, and then it says review of bugs resolved fix not verified. So this describes an algorithm of how one could implement what I just mentioned, and part of it is included in the design of openqa-review and openqa, but not to the full extent to really make that automatic decision. Okay, so what else? Jose, you raise your hand.
Yeah, so just a side comment on that. So I don't think we need to really go to low level in the test code to see if the package version is there or not. But what you can do is have some sort of condition if the feature is working or not. And then if it's not working, you can raise that soft failure. This is what we're doing for this particular case in this containers test. So
Yeah.
basically we're checking if this feature is there, and if not, then we raise the soft failure and do some actions. Yeah, okay, because yeah, we
Yes.
need that to be working. So I think that should be considered some kind of best practices for us when writing the code, when it's applicable, right? It's not always.
Agreed. This is actually, thank you for reminding about that, because this is actually also what I'm doing when I do code review of test code contributions. And if someone wants to include a record soft failure, that we really check for the presence of an error condition. Like, as you said, a certain feature is working or not. We check that in the product from the functional perspective. We don't even care about which package is in which version, because, you know, as long as that functionality doesn't work from user perspective, from customer perspective, this is what they care about.
Sure.
So then we record a soft failure. And of course, as soon as the soft failure goes away, we kind of can say that the bug is not applicable anymore, so we can assume it to be fixed. Well, what isn't done automatically is this transition from yellow to green doesn't trigger that action automatically, right? So that would be that would certainly be cool to say, as soon as we also see that a test turns green again, we can feedback the information or maybe even the decision to say the bug is fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Other show of hands that I've missed? No? Okay. So let me shortly show you openqa-review. So what you can do is you can search for openqa-review, and then okay, let me do that without refreshing the repos. And then you find nothing. Yeah, it's openqa_review, and then you find Python 2 and the Python 3 version. If you call zipper in openqa-review, it should also install that by default. You see that I have that already installed. So we can call openqa-review help. So if you want to call that manually on your computer, then you can do that. The alternative is what I will show you afterwards, to see how we call that on a recurring base in a CI pipeline. So simple examples. If I call openqa-review, by default, it already does something, which is By default, it goes to openqa-review.org. It's looking at the complete overview, so all job groups included. This is why it can take some time to gather an overview and then generate a report. The report will be in text-only markdown format directly here on the terminal. So what we can do is we can forward the output into a file. That takes a bit long, and hardly anyone is interested in the complete overview of all the products. So what one can do is taking a look at the help. There are a lot of options. So for example, we can select individual job groups. Okay. So let's say I'm only interested in the openqa and openqa tests. Then I can do something like this. And then what it will do is it will take a look on the openqa open-source.org index page, the list of job groups, and it will take a look on which job group matches. This can be a regex, so we can also combine it. Let me see if that matches. Yeah, okay, let's shortly look it up. So we go to openqa open-source.org, and then we see that there's an, okay, it's not called OBS, but it's Open Build Service. So let's extend that to Open Build Service as a regex. And now it's looking for both openqa and Open Build Service, and it will show the overview of all. What you see here is that you have this, well, rather boring and empty sections. The reason is because there are no tests failing. We can strip down and configure the way how the report looks. For example, we can say no empty sections, and then that should be a bit smaller. So you see here now it's only giving the title, and it's basically saying openqa green, nothing to do. And then for Open Build Service, OBS unstable, it says green. And there's one issue here. Now you see that it only references the name of the scenario and nothing more. Maybe you want to have a bit more detail, and that can be configured with the parameter capital T for the test details. So we can do one or multiple, and you can experiment how much level of detail you like. And maybe you already want to say, like, well, for experimentation, I don't want to collect all that data repeatedly. So what I will do, I will create a directory, and I will say, save me the output into that directory. And then recurring calls can be much faster because I can read from that directory. So you see now that the output has changed a bit, and it says changes since reference build, and now that link is actually a link. You can open the link in your terminal depending on your terminal emulator, but also you can directly put that into you could put that into a markdown parser, which we do when generating the HTML report, and then it's more convenient. So we have done that once, and now if I say load steer, that's faster. So you see it only took a second to generate the same report. More options that openqa-review can do, and after that, then I will show you how we already use it to more or less a full extent within CI jobs. So we see we already used the parameter no empty sections. We can filter it further. We can only select a certain architecture. We can say should soft fails be included or not. We use the save and load parameter. but it does more. OpenQA-review already, as I told, it has that interface to Bugzilla, actually it has an interface to Bugzilla as well as to Progress. And maybe all of you have already seen a couple of times automatic reminder comments. These automatic reminder comments on Bugzilla entries as well as on Progress tickets are generated by OpenQA-review. And this is what we do in this the latest feature about reminder comment on issues. And there's a dry run mode, so if one wants to try that out before, you know, mass writing hundreds of comments on various bugs. And what this does is goes through all the bug references that are mentioned on a report as you have seen it before, and write an actual comment on that ticket with the corresponding current job URL pointing to an OpenQA job in that ticket if that ticket has not been updated for some time. So in the case of there is a bug, a job is recently failing, so OpenQA jobs are repeatedly reproducing that bug, but there is no update on that bug, like nobody is writing progress about how the fixing process goes, or here is a submit request, or further investigating, or anything like that, then a reminder comment is added on these issues. And that comment also references an explanation like where this comes from and what should be done to resolve that. I know that this feature is receiving positive as well as negative feedback. Some people really like that and appreciate that and actively use that. We originally also implemented that because, you know, previously project managers or release managers, you know, were also putting this kind of annoying comments on bugs to ask, is the bug still valid? Does it still happen? Because OpenQA-review now can tell you automatically, like, yes, it does still happen. But of course, some say this is annoying because there are many reminder comments. But actually, and consider all of these cases where, well, some action still needs to be done. In many cases, this is a record soft failure. This is too generic and fires an alert every time, even though the bug condition is not actually met. Any comments or questions around the use of OpenQA-review itself?
Just a small one. The option that you give the jobs can be the number of the job or just the name?
You mean that you can give the ID?
Yes.
I don't think you can do that, but I don't see a use case to select individual jobs. But actually, if you want to monitor an individual job, I can recommend OpenQA-mon for that.
I mean the job job group ID.
Oh yeah, sorry. The job, yes, the job group, yeah, right. So that is possible. So you can give the parameter -j, which is selected job groups by name or regex. You can also give one or multiple job group URLs with the parameter J. So, for example, here, this looks on OpenQA OpenSUSE.org. You can change the host parameter, so you can write OpenQA OpenSUSE.org, and then that, what it will do, it will actually parse from the job group table on that host if there's a job group matching that, or you can say the single job group URL, and then you don't need the host parameter because it's implicit, and then you just parse from that single job group, which in that case is Krypton.
Nice.
right? Okay, then I would, the last thing that I would like to show you is that we have a GitLab CI job. And we have a project which is called openqa-review. It doesn't include the source code of openqa-review, which is, of course, a proper public open source project on GitHub. But it only has a tiny README and the GitLab CI instructions. So what it does here, you can see that it's using the Bugzilla credentials and the URL to access, as well as for progress and Redmine API key. And then we configure only something like an email target. So for now, I'm using my email address as kind of the monitoring email address for this job here. And then we export all the reports into HTML. And the reports that you have previously seen, they are like in my personal export folder, but at least the short URL is a generic, and we have a ticket in the backlog of the SUSE QE Tools team to use the artifacts of that GitLab project directly. But I can show you the pipelines. So every day to gather the current status, we have pipelines. And so what we do here is, well, we call basically openqa-review the same way as you have seen in before. And then it takes some minutes to get the complete overview in an HTML email as well as email. If you want to get the same content in email, that's possible as well. We have an internal mailing list which is called openqa-review. And in openqa-review, here you can see that there's a daily report from, in that case, openqa OpenSUSE.org. I don't know about openqa SUSE.de. Maybe I'm just still forwarding that to my personal address. But if there's a wish, we can, switch that in the CI pipeline. That's easy to do. And then we have that additional email here. So you see, you have the very same format of a markdown in an email report, which is also good for archiving purposes. So you know that is archived. And it also references the HTML version. And we have seen that page in before. It's this HTML rendered version of the markdown document, which is created by openqa-review. Okay. So any comments or questions still about openqa-review at that point? Now to review interesting areas per squad, I wanted to present that as one of the solutions to do that. I know that different teams have different scope and also different preferences, and this is why I'm saying this is one of the solutions, but it's an already existing and a mature solution. So this is why I was motivated to present that now. So I can recommend that solution. I will actually, we had a separate ticket to market that as the solution, and then I will resolve one of the feature requests which was recently created out of a discussion regarding the QA maintenance workflows, to say to present that solution shortly, mentioning in written form what we have discussed and presented here. But our work is not finished, of course. We always have good ideas how to improve for the future. Currently, there are no related feature requests for openqa-review itself. One thing that I could think of is introduce a filter to say, based on a list of scenario names, we want to include or exclude certain scenario names. That should be rather easy to implement. I just wonder if that would be actually if it would be feasible for the certain squads or teams to define that list. Timo, I know that you have created a wiki page where you try to define the names of all the scenarios which are interesting. So I wonder if that would be helpful to you as well then. Yeah, so much about that.
I just heard what sounded like a train.
A train in my backyard.
I don't know. Maybe some machine you have running there.
No, it's no train. Maybe the notification bell from my smartphone or some service. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, Weigao, go ahead.
Yes, if for subgroups such as migration group, we have some job group, at least 4 or 5 job group for the openqa.
Yes.
And I maybe we can add for each job group we can create a trigger button for this read. And when we complete the review one job group, we can just click the button and the result will input into the openqa.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I suggest that you try out openqa-review with the perimeter which I've just shown, either the list of URLs or the regex for the job group. So something like everything with migration. Maybe you want to exclude the development job group, and then you can call that yourself, or you can create a merge request for the configuration in here, to extend that GitLab CI YAML, or actually if it's let me see how these pipelines are configured. So right now we have this schedule. So every day we generate automatically a report of openqa OpenSUSE.org and openqa SUSE. And the only difference is that here we see it doesn't specify any variable in here. Maybe this is the default. Right. So the only difference is that we change this variable. Okay. And with these variables, we can cover different pipelines. But yeah, but first I suggest experiment with openqa-review to find the right expression for the job groups. Okay.
And when this job is scheduled and the result will put to the openqa page.
Not yet automatically, but with openqa client that is easily possible. So for example, I could say something like this. So I would save the output of the report in a variable, and then that would be
03.
Yeah, in that case it would be, yeah, right, or 3. So if I would like to write it on 03, then this, and then I don't know the exact syntax, but something with the comments route where we can post that.
Okay, I know.
Like this.
Just combine the script into the schedule job, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Good. Thank you. So the last thing which I would like to do is just review with you feature requests or ideas, or how that is related to the current work that we have planned within the SUSE QE Tools team. So we have one ticket here, which is save openqa-review reports as GitLab CI artifacts. So I mentioned in before that we already have the reports, but that one in particular is generated by a cron job executed by my user account, and I would like that we use the GitLab CI pipeline jobs itself to save the report as GitLab CI artifact. So we just upload the document there. The alternative could be that from the CI job we post a comment to openqa job group pages, or just rely on how we send email so far, but then with the email we cannot directly render that as nice HTML documents. What else? What was the other ticket? Yeah, remind about the use of openqa-review in squads. Basically, I consider that ticket done after this workshop. So after that workshop, then I consider that done. And this is linked to an epic about surface the openqa results per squad in a single place, where I've changed that to only include openqa-review as the single subtask. But I created a follow-up epic, which is make reviewing openqa results per squad easier. And in there we have multiple additional quite different ideas what to be done. For example, one would be that we provide notifications about failed and unreviewed jobs in RocketJet. We already have that in IRC since years. I think it's underused, and even more so because then SUSE IT switched from IRC to RocketJet and never provided the bridge that we were waiting for. So this is why the comments just end up in IRC and not in RocketJet. Yeah, so that would be one idea. The second idea, this now these are two like openqa specific features, are making the option to filter by flavor, test name, job group in test overview more prominent, because the test overview page already has many more possibilities than you might think. So we want to make it obvious from the UI, where you can click something or maybe at least read the help string, which says what you can do, like you can try to add more query parameters into the filter URL. And the third one being resolve the most recent builds per job group on test overview when showing multiple job groups. This is linked to the possibility that the test overview page might be capable to show more than you might think. And for that, I would like to show you one final example. So this is openqa SUSE. Let's assume we want to show the test repo, the aggregated test results from SLE 15 SP2 as well as SLE 15 SP1 at the same time. So this one and this one. And you don't want to click on the primary job URL for each, and then for SLE 12 as well 5 times. So what you can do is, if you follow one overview page, you see here in the URL where it says version 15 SP1, the build and the group ID. And actually, if we leave out parameters, and as long as it's still unambiguous, it still will resolve to a certain build. So if we do that, this should be just equivalent. You see, it still shows SLE 15 SP1 updates, even though we did not even specify that it's 15 SP1. We can also reference multiple job groups. So if we want to include the job group of sleeve 15 SP2 in the same overview, then we can do this. And then you will see that this page shows the combination of both. You see here, it links both job groups together. And then, of course, we can filter it down because with more job groups, we have more results. Maybe you just want to check the to-do page, like which jobs need a review, like which ones do not have a label or a bug ref yet. And then you see this. And if you leave out the build, because the build is like, this is the build of today, so tomorrow the URL would need to be different. And if we leave out the build, then openqa automatically resolves to the latest build. However, this is where the limitation comes in. If you want to go further and say, like, show me the overview of all incident tests, there actually the build is the most recent build is different per product. There, this concept doesn't work anymore, and then it will just like pick any build, so not do what you want. But in many other cases, it does work, but as I assume, this is actually not that prominent. So yeah. So comments, additions from your side?
Yeah. So in this case, the options that they are on the top for the time, it's not valid, right? They don't work.
Do you mean this overview fixed to the current time? It will still be valid, I think. Oh, okay. Now it doesn't show anything.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused how it works and what should the output I should expect from this.
Yeah. Right. So in these combined queries, it's it can be a bit tricky or not do what we want. If we go there from a normal generated URL, then this will be more reasonable. So if I now click here, then it will just look the same. But the thing is, if you pass that URL around tomorrow, it will still look the same, because now we have that fixed timestamp included. So this is like the inverse. It's a less dynamic report, which sometimes you want because you want to reference a test overview, let's say in a bug or in a test report, and say at that time this is how it looked. And of course, you know, if someone later than that time re-triggers a build, then this result is explicitly not excluded then.
So fixed time means what? Now?
Yeah, you can actually, I mean, if you parse that time, what it says here, it's the 30th of April, okay? And at the time of 08:52 17 seconds in UTC. So this is how the overview page looked like 2 minutes ago. So if anyone re-triggers a job now, normally, if you don't have the timestamp included, then of course the overview page will show you the re-triggered job, but this one here will stay on that.
Okay.
All right. I'm of course happy to get more feedback from you in any upcoming time. With that, I consider the topic for today done. Just one last minute I would like to use to gather ideas or wishes from you for further upcoming workshop topics. Anything that you would like to see in the next weeks. If not, you know where to find us, I'm sure.
And the link is also pasted in the chat here.
Thank you for that, Christian. Okay, then
I
thank
have
you
one topic.
and goodbye. And yeah, I will re-record that in a second. I will stop here officially now.